Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video is going to be a book review over Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. I'm just going to let you guys know right now that I absolutely love this book, and a good portion of this video is going to be me gushing over it. So let's just hop into it so that way I can share with you why I loved this book so much. So Sydney, she's, living her life. It's pretty good. She's in college. She's living with her best friend Tori. She has this long-term boyfriend that she's been dating for a couple of years named Hunter. She thinks that her life is pretty great, and she's just trying to, go through that whole phase of living and learning about herself and what she wants in life, where she's going to go, where she sees herself going, and all that kind of thing. So when the book first starts, we learn that Sydney has just found out that her boyfriend and her best friend, so Hunter and Tori, have been going behind her back and have been hooking up. And it's not something that's just happened or anything like that. It's been something that has been going on for a very, very long time, for like pretty much the whole length of Sydney's relationship with Hunter. So she feels very, very betrayed by both of them. She's just like, I can't deal with this. So before she throws all of her stuff into her suitcase, she punches Tori in the face, and just stuff goes down. So pretty much she is sitting outside of her apartment complex waiting for a taxi cab to come pick her up, and she's just kind of pumping herself up to go home to her parents. But she's pumping herself up because she's needing to swallow her pride, because she knows that when she goes there, she's going to get the I told you so, I told you so, I told you you shouldn't have moved so far away, I told you that you should have studied this and I'd be paying for everything, I told you this, I told you that. So she's just psyching herself up to get into that mental state to where she can take that, and she's just going back home. She's considering going back home because she feels like that's really her only option. She's pretty much been betrayed by the two closest people in her life. So she's like, man. And to make matters worse, it is her birthday, and it is pouring rain, cats and dogs. If you live in the South, you know the type of thunderstorms / rainstorms we have in the afternoon, here during the summer. And if you have not seen that, it's pretty legit. I will actually insert a clip of what I filmed right before I started filming this video. So yes, as you saw, very intense. So Sydney notices that across the courtyard, her friend Ridge, who lives in the apartment across from hers, is trying to invite her to come up and come inside. And she's like, heck to the no, and she just replies to him by flipping him off, and he's just like, I don't know what to do with this chick. So he sends down one of his roommates, Bridget, to go collect her, because Bridget, she's very, very abrasive. That's a good word. She's just very, very abrasive. So she pretty much just forces Sydney to come up inside. She's like, look, let's go. I don't want to get wet and I'm late for work. So you're coming. And so that's how the prologue ends. In the first chapter, it's just a jump back a couple of weeks, and it explains how Sydney and Ridge, how they've met each other, how they met each other across their courtyard from their balconies. In the evenings, Ridge would come out onto his balcony and play his guitar, and so Sydney would go outside and listen to him. And this went on for, several weeks. Ridge started noticing that she was tapping her foot, she was singing along to his songs, but he, at the time, was going through this really crazy, intense writer's block, so he's like, I haven't written any lyrics for this song. So he goes inside, gets old school paper and marker, and they start talking across the courtyard from each other, and he gets her number, and he gets her to agree to send him the lyrics that she's written. And so that's how their friendship has started up. Okay, you guys, so if you have not read this book and you don't want to be spoiled, I'm just going to say goodbye right now, because I'm going to be entering into full-on gush mode commencing now. Going back to present day, where Sydney is waking up on the couch in Ridge's apartment, she meets the other roommate, Warren, who is just being straight up creepy. He's just like sitting there eating a bowl of cereal, just staring at her. Full on creeper mode. So it was hilarious. And they have a good conversation with each other, and I'm like, I'm gonna like this kid. I absolutely loved and adored these characters. I mean, I loved all of them. I loved how they interacted with each other. It was just so amazing. I had the wonderful pleasure of meeting Colleen Hoover when she was in Texas a couple months back for a book signing, and she was having like this Q&A before she started like her actual signing, and I asked her a question. I worked up the nerve and asked her a question, and I asked her, what do you think readers look for in a story? At the time, I hadn't read any of Colleen's work. Like, I had bought Maybe Someday, and I was gonna start reading Slammed, but I hadn't like finished any of like her work, so I was just really curious of her as an author. I was just wondering, you know, what do you think that readers look for in a story? And she's like, oh, that's a really great question. And she turned the question back to me, which I was like not expecting. And she's like, well, what do you look for in a story? And I think I said that to me, the most important thing that I look for in a story is just relatable characters. If I can relate to them, they feel real to me. If I can care about them and their struggles and what they're going through, that is just one of the biggest thing that I look for in a story or in a book. I just have to say that all the characters in Maybe Someday, it fulfilled that one great desire that I have as a reader, the one thing that I look for the most, and it was just amazing, spot on, realistic, genuine, kick-ass characters that was just such a pleasure to read the world through their point of view, and like just to see what's happening in their lives and how they interacted with each other. And I just loved it, and I ate it up. It's just so refreshing to get like that one thing that I look for the most in a story, and I feel like a lot of times I don't really get to enjoy characters the way I want to. So Colleen, I know you're probably not watching this, but thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for writing characters like that. You absolutely delivered the one thing that I as a reader want to see the most in a story. So thank you so much. Alright, you guys, we're gonna keep this gushing train moving right along. Sydney and Ridge, there are two main characters, and the story really does revolve around them and their relationship and how it develops and the challenges that they face in their relationship as their relationship starts to develop and they learn more about each other, and it's just wow. It felt like they were just so hilarious and genuine. I loved all of the roommates. I loved Bridget, I loved Warren, and I loved how they had like this I hate you thing during the day, but in the evening they're like, hey baby, hey. And it was so much fun to see them by the end. We're like, okay, I don't care, I do love you in the daylight too. And just how much crap they would give each other, that was just something that I really enjoyed. And I loved Ridge and I loved Warren, of course, and how they interacted with each other. They acted more like brothers and like BFFs, and they didn't take themselves too seriously. I loved how they had pranking wars. And Sydney, when she moved in, she did something to Warren where he's like, okay girl, just prepare yourself because it is full on war now. And so she got brought into like these prank wars, the pine saw, you guys. So Ridge is hiding the liquor in their apartment, or else Warren would drink it all and he would never pay for it. So what Ridge has done is he has taken all of his liquor and he has put it in a pine saw bottle, and he lets, Sydney in on the thing. So she like walks out and she's like, why are you taking a shot of pine saw? What is wrong with you? It's like, no, it's not like legit pine saw, it's alcohol. And so later on in the story, she does a prank where she switches it, puts pine salt in the bottle. Not a good outcome. Ridge, he took Warren's Oreos, and like in the center row he took out a couple and he like scraped the cream filling out of it, and then he took toothpaste and put the cream filling back in, put the Oreos back together, placed them back in the tray, closed it, put it, and waited for Warren. Oh my god, so epic. It was just so epic and so hilarious. I'm like, oh my god, I love these people. I want to be their friends. It would just be a blast all the time. Okay, you guys, I'm going to share with you guys the other reason why I absolutely love this book. And largely it's because of Sydney and Ridge. And it's not so much of their romance, but more of their relationship and how their relationship developed. I'm just going to let you guys know right now that when a story involves any kind of cheating emotionally or physically, I am just predisposed to, like, on the scale of like being neutral, being fine with it, and just hell to the no. I'm just predisposed to be on the hell to the no side no matter what. My life experiences and how I filter things and I see the world, that's just where I fall. I actually think that it says so much about how Colleen wrote this story and how she wrote that in, that to where that if I'm always just predisposed to be like, no, I don't support this, I don't agree with it, you're doing this to yourself and I have no empathy, no sympathy for you whatsoever. For her to write that in such a way to where I'm on the other end of the spectrum being like connected, and I feel connected with the characters, like I understand what they're going through, I understand their reasoning, I actually feel for them, and actually I'm hoping, I'm like, God, I really hope that you work all these things out. I think that says so much to how it's written. In the thick of it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, she is making me care about this, and I feel empathy for them, I understand them, I understand their situation, and oh my gosh, I agree, it like totally sucks, like 110%, and I'm just like in there with them. For me to experience that when I was reading that and realize that, I was like, damn girl, you did a good job, you got me there. I think that one of the big reasons why that is because actually another facet of the story, which is the intimacy that you see between Ridge and Maggie. And Maggie is his girlfriend, long-term girlfriend, and then the intimacy that, you know, Ridge and Sydney develop as their relationship develops. That was another thing, just the topic of intimacy. I really feel like our society puts such a huge emphasis on physical intimacy and not so much of the emotional sides of things. When you're vulnerable with someone, how quickly you can develop intimacy with them. And that was like one of the things I really enjoyed. I loved Maggie as a character. I feel like that some people might not really care that much about her because, you know, she's she's the woman that you want to see out of the way because you want to see Ridge and Sydney together. I love her. I wouldn't mind having her as a best friend. Like, she's just a cool lady. I really enjoyed seeing like the dual sides of like when Ridge, like his relationship with Sydney and then his relationship with Maggie. And I really noticed that his relationship with Maggie, like when we saw them being together, it was more of like this physical intimacy. They had no problem with that whatsoever. Whereas his relationship with Sydney, it was just they were both so like arm's length against each other about not allowing any kind of physical intimacy with each other as long as they could, but they had more of like this emotional intimacy and understanding between each other. You see it first start to develop when they're writing songs together and they're just pouring their hearts out and just creating something together. And like the moment when, you know, Ridge, after he's like cut the first song that they've done together, and Ridge is watching Sydney listen to it, and he's just saying like to himself, never in my life have I ever wanted to hear so bad. Like, I've never been so jealous and envious of not being able to hear than like right now, because he just wants to be able to hear Sydney sing. Since he didn't have the advantage to hear her sing, he asked if he could her permission to feel her sing, and that was just whoa. Like when that happened, I was just like, this is a really private moment. Oh my gosh, like wow, just completely blew me away. And I enjoyed it so much because I'm like, yes, this is the kind of thing that I want when romance develops between two characters that I read about. This is the kind of shit that I want to read about. Not like this, we can't keep our hands off each other, which granted is a part of everything, but like that was just so much more powerful to me, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I've noticed like, hey, I'm starting to develop feelings for you, and I don't want to be a Tory, and I don't want you to be a hunter. I don't want our situation to play out and us do to Maggie what was done to me was like Sydney's whole thing, and things in the relationship was still developing. And just like when Ridge, he was explaining to her why he never verbalized, like why he never said anything, and it's because like his parents, his father was got so angry and agitated with him because he was trying to communicate with him by verbalizing when he was younger, and it really embarrassed his father that his father just laid right into him. And since then he's like, I don't try to verbalize. Even then later when he shares with her like how he came up with the name Sounds of Cedar for the band, and like how when he was younger he would listen on the floors for when like his parents' parties would be over because they would play music. He would lay on the floor and he would listen to the vibrations, and he would wait for them to be gone and be over before he went over to his brother's room. And just because it wasn't a great environment and he had to do that. He's told Sydney things about himself and about his past, and he's been vulnerable with her, and like his biggest hurts that he hasn't even shared with Maggie. It's just you just really see kind of like where they're at with each other and what kind of level they're on, even though they're not on this physical level. And that's something I really enjoyed, and something I think that I honestly needed. Really allowed me to see like, oh hey, you know, probably the reason why Ridge is so attracted to Sydney is because he's getting those emotional needs filled, whereas he doesn't really have that with Maggie. And another thing that I just have to gush about is the fact that Ridge is deaf. When I came to that page when Sydney learned that he couldn't hear her, I just like put the book down and I was like, thank you. Because I really just, you guys don't even understand. So books are kind of like a movie. It is a reflection of our society and our views and what we value, how we treat people. It's a glimpse of what our society looks like. And honestly, I have never read a novel where a main character didn't have all the advantages of all of their senses. And that, seeing that when I came across that and I learned that he didn't have the advantage of hearing, I was like, thank you, because in our world and in our society, not everyone has all of those advantages. Being portrayed as human beings and just their life, and you care about them. Oh my gosh, I loved it. I was completely geeking out. I got my degree in psychology, so these kinds of things really interest me, and they really hit home. And I was just like, yes, thank you. This is what we need. This is what we need. So yeah, that was another great thing, and I think that it was handled so well. And it was actually that page, it was in that moment where I was like, I'm going to love this book. And I hadn't even gotten to 100 pages, and I had like links. I'm like, oh, I'm going to probably really enjoy this book reading up to it. But as soon as I got to that point, like my mind was made up, like I'm going to love this story. I'm going to love these characters. The end of the story where, you know, Maggie has found all of Ridge's and Sydney's conversations with each other, and she knows it. She knows all these things, and she can even tell like, this is more than just plain friendship. There's something definitely extra here. And then like when she finds out that when they were discussing with each other about the kiss and how that would never happen again, and then Ridge is talking to Sydney and he's like, you know, you just need time. That's, you know, and I will give you time. And then to be honest, like she did, and she needed the time to be okay with it and to, you know, really know like that she could trust herself and trust him. Warren and Bridget crowded her to the event that Rich had planned where Sounds of Cedar was playing, and he was helping play and sing some of the songs that he wrote for her. And then like when she signed to him, Win and I Love You, and it was just, oh my gosh, I was just like, oh my god, it's so amazing. I just can't right now. I can't breathe, I can't live. It's just, so epically awesome. So yeah, I'm sorry about all of the gushing. I tried to rein it in, but I knew with this story, like with this review, that wasn't really something that I was going to be able to do. So I've embraced my gushing moments. If you've read this book, let's talk about it down in the comments below. Pretty please, because in my real life, no one has read this book except for Hannah, and I just need to talk about it with people. Please help me. Let's talk about it down in the comments below, you guys. And if you've not read this book and you watched it all the way through, you ruined it for yourself, but it's okay. Get the book, let's read it, and then come back and we can talk about it. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so excited. So yeah, I'm gonna end right here. Until I see you next time, peace out, Girl Scouts.